Well, thanks for inviting me again to speak to the Badger Trust AGM. I don't know how many times I've spoken to it, but I assume that you can't get enough speakers because it must be the fourth time.
I've never heard you. So I'm happy
well, you didn't listen. I'm going to talk to you about how the Fox project came into being, rather than where it's going. It's interesting hearing what Luke's plans are for the future and how he expects things to go. If it goes as well as the Fox project did when it began in its ambitions and aims, then it's going to go really well. The Fox project, for those who haven't come across us before, is an ambiguous mix of things. It's a wildlife hospital, it's a fox deterrence consultancy, and it's a wildlife information bureau specialising in foxes. Now, two of those things sound as if they're completely at odds with one another, one being a wildlife hospital and the other being a fox deterrence consultancy, but they actually work very well together and are both important in their own ways. Now, the way the Fox project came together is 25 years ago now, and it came about because the initial concern that I had was, I was a member of the Hunt Saboteurs Association, and I was going out with hunts and seeing what they were doing, but in the process of doing that, I came to realise what else was going on out there. And what came to my notice was that more foxes were being killed by local authorities across the country than by all the hunts at once in the whole year. It was an enormous number of foxes. And what was happening was that, I'm going back to the days when councils had some money. Today they don't have the kind of money they used to have then. And they were able to do things which they didn't legally have to do, but felt able to do because the money was there to do it. And if somebody had a problem with foxes in their gardens, they would normally phone the local authority. They still do it, that's the first port of call. And most local authorities, in fact all London local authorities except for one, operated a system of pest control of one kind or another. So all that had to happen was somebody said, foxes pooing on my garden, and the council would send somebody around. And we're going back to the days when poisoning and gassing were relatively more common, well, certainly much more common, and illegal in some cases. So that's the kind of thing that was happening. And there were tens of thousands of foxes being killed every year by local authorities. We didn't approach this opposition to that by campaigning or going out and sort of lambasting them or anything. We started working, a couple of us, on systems of repellents, deterrents, trying to deter foxes from people's gardens, trying to stop them doing the kinds of things they were doing, moving them on, and effectively using the fox's own instincts against them. Mostly using kind of chemical scent marking, if you like, which made the animals think that the territory was no longer theirs. And it worked extremely well. In fact, we were surprised how well it worked. It worked so well that we felt able to go to several London local authorities and say, can we operate with you some test schemes? Have a go, you refer your householders to us and we'll have a go for them. We'll try and solve their problems. And it worked really rather well. It worked in Lambeth, it worked in Bexley, it worked in Southwark. All of those councils were very cooperative with us. Then we went to Lewisham Council and we asked them if they would do the same thing. They said no, we prefer to operate with two terrier men, two guys who will go out and kill foxes using these two terriers. So we said, okay, well, how about we look at the idea of, are you actually achieving anything? Are you bringing the population down at all? Because we don't think you are. We think all that's happening is the fox population is recovering every time you knock it down. And these other three councils that we're working with all take the view, as they did, that nothing really was changing. The population was the same year on year on year. We think that's the same with you. So Lewisham Council said, okay, we'll pass jobs on to you instead of these two terrier men. And we started work for them as well. And the two terrier men, realising what had happened, sent us a missive in an envelope. Well, actually, come to think about it, it was the dogs that sent the missive. And that was a warning to us that we had some opposition. But we proved over a year, when they checked the population from one end of the year to the other, that their population, their fox population, had not changed, despite the fact these two terrier men were no longer killing foxes. That was the beginning. After that, we went to other London councils, gave this kind of evidence to them as well, and they started coming over to us. Now, I was working at that time for the League Against Cruel Sports, and while that was important, I didn't think it was important as pushing this whole deterrence scheme further. So it came to a point when I decided, well, okay, I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to go national with this on my own, try and see what other local authorities will come towards us and stop pushing people towards pest control. And I left the League Against Cruel Sports, £400, gave myself 3 months, said if that doesn't work, then I can drive the bus. So there was an option, there was a way out. And mailed out every council in the country, that was about 550 at the time, and said, I'm setting up a helpline which will give people advice on fox deterrence. It will have a call-out service for the southeast only, so people can, I'll go out and do a job for them on site. How do you feel about it? Do you fancy it? And I thought, well, I've got 4 councils in my pocket right now in London. If I can double that, I'll be well pleased. 3 weeks later, I was working for 65 councils. This was because councils have never had a legal responsibility to deal with foxes. They only have legal responsibility to deal with animals which are classified as vermin or are dangerous in some way or another to the public or to livestock. And as far as they were concerned, London particularly didn't have livestock. Most other councils in the cities don't have much livestock, so that wasn't a big deal, and they weren't dangerous to people. And they weren't classified as vermin. Despite what gamekeepers, despite what hunters will tell you, foxes have never been officially classified as vermin. And from that point of view, councils had no legal responsibility. So they all looked at this letter, they all looked at this helpline, and they said, this is the best get out we've ever had. We don't have to deal with foxes anymore. We'll refer them all to him down there in Kent. And the phone calls started flooding in. That was 65 councils in 3 weeks. By the end of the year, we were working for roughly half the councils in the country. When I say working for them, they weren't paying us anything. Basically, we were advising people for nothing. We were going out doing call-outs and getting some money for the call-outs. When I look back at what we were going out for, I was going out for, it was kind of £15 or something like that for 2 hours of work in somebody's garden, paying for repellents, paying for fuel, and probably coming out of it with no money at all. But it was winning the battle, it was bringing people round. That was important. Also important was the Wildlife Information Bureau aspect of what we were doing, which was important to bring the public in as well. It's all very well letting local authorities off the hook by giving them an option, but we needed to get to the public. We needed to say to them, this is a better way of doing things. Now that wasn't that easy, because when you talk to most people, even if they don't care very much about foxes, they don't actually want to hurt them. I mean, we get that now with our rescue service. People will phone up and say, I don't like foxes very much, but I've got a very ill one in the garden, would you come and do something about it? So those people are okay deep down, and it wasn't that difficult to bring them round. The kind of problems that we face are sort of media-led to a degree, they're politician-led to another degree, and people like Boris Johnson, when he was the mayor, is one of the kind of people that we have to worry about, because they're powerful, they're popular in a peculiar sort of way, and even though they're not long evolved from fish, they have a voice that is heard. And when he was the mayor, he kept coming out again and again with lines like, the fox population in London is doubling every year. The fox population in London has stayed the same now for roughly 45 years, as far as we know. And in fact, it's gone down very slightly in the last 10. So that's not true. We get members of the public being fed things by the media, such as they kill, oh no, they bite babies. The media's never said they kill babies. But the trouble is with urban myths, we now get lots of people phoning us up and saying, I'm worried about allowing my grandchildren to play in the garden because foxes are out there and they kill babies, don't they? And you go, no, nobody's ever been, foxes never killed a baby. And they'll go, oh yes, what about those two twins in East London in Hackney? Now everybody remembers that story. Nobody was killed, nobody was injured that badly, and in fact, from all intents and purposes, as far as neighbours and police are concerned in the area, and some of the media, it looks like it was the family's own dog. But the media don't want to bring that up, because their story, well, I'll give you an example of why the media doesn't want to bring it up. One of the, we all know about the Daily Mail. I mean, forget them, they don't matter at all. They will always be on the opposite side. But sometimes you think there may be a journalist out there that's actually capable of something better. And I rather doubt it sometimes, because back in the day when that was going on, that story was going on, we had a journalist come around from Newsnight. Now you think Newsnight's a bit above the Daily Mail. You think Newsnight's got a little bit more about it. And the journalist said, what do you think about this? And I said, I think it was a dog. I don't think it was a fox at all. It was responsible. And she said, yeah, we do too. So I said, well, why don't you say so? And she said, there's no story in Dog Bites Baby. It's a big story in Fox Bites Baby. So you can't even trust Newsnight. As far as they were concerned, it was all about the sensationalist story. Nothing else really mattered. And we're faced with that kind of problem all the time. We get problems about people phoning up and saying, I've got foxes in the garden, so it's got rabies. And they go, no, hasn't been rabies in Britain since 1894. Actually, sorry, 1904. And I go, yes, but what about the Channel Tunnel? Yeah, you do get foxes that are prepared to walk from France 16 miles underground, of course, bringing rabies with them. The stuff that comes up is just really quite incredible. It's the public that we have to reach. And unfortunately, that's the real problem, because the media is not, generally speaking, on our side. That's largely because the media is no longer journalist-led. It's got people who never even leave their desks. They just write stories from comments that are made over the phone. They're the hardest to reach. Now, when we established the Fox Project, we only established it as a Fox Deterrence Consultancy, as a Wildlife Information Bureau. We had no intention of being a wildlife hospital. But when you put your name in Yellow Pages as the Fox Project, some bugger out there is going to find a fox cub and phone you up because they found you in Yellow Pages and you're the Fox Project and you must be a rescue organisation. And we didn't want to be that. That was never our intention. However, it happened. People phoned. And in our first year, we took in 3 foxes because I just went, oh, okay, we can do that. I've done a bit of paramedic work with fox cubs, I can deal with that. And we had 3 foxes in, and I thought, that's all right, we can handle that. 8 years later, we were bringing in 750 foxes. Naming ourselves the Fox Project was not a great idea. You need to master these things. If anybody out there is thinking of starting up the Stoke Project, call it something slightly more obscure. You'll have an easier life. That wildlife hospital started out as being just 2 people, myself and 1 volunteer. 2 volunteers after about a year, and has now developed into, I think, 8 staff and 3 wildlife ambulances running all the time. It's doing a pretty good job out there. I'm sort of semi-retired from it now. I'm kind of doing fundraising and admin rather than being out there on the front line, because at my age I just can't run as fast as a fox anymore. Now, I think what I really want to say about the future, and Luke was talking more about the future than I'm doing. I'm talking about the past more so. What I want to see for the future is people out there who are interacting more with the public. We talked about, or Luke talked about, interacting with politicians and getting more pressure from there. But we need to actually be talking to the public far more, getting our message out to them. I don't know how we do it, because unfortunately the media is not particularly on our side. It takes the easy option these days. It doesn't have, we no longer seem to have people like John Pilger, people like those who are great investigative journalists. Instead we've got a celebrity-led kind of column campaign thing going on with people like Katie Hopkins, Jeremy Clarkson. Who the hell are they? But they are the people who basically form opinion. And that's a tough business. Sorry?
Donald Trump. Yeah, that's where that.
Yeah, Donald Trump. It's a tough business. It's hard to know where to go, but you can go somewhere if you push it hard. I think I'm slightly despondent the way things are these days, because there was a great heyday, I think, from the middle 70s onwards, where animal welfare, wildlife welfare seemed to be going somewhere, and it gradually seems to me to be slid away. I would like it to come back. I mean, currently we have a government which is culling endangered species, which is giving licenses to gamekeepers to cull other endangered species, as if the gamekeepers bother with licenses anyway. We got grey squirrels being culled for the same reason that red squirrels were being culled in the 1930s. We've got anglers calling for culling of otters. You know, where's this all going? It's all going downhill, and it needs to start going back uphill again. And I sort of lost the thread of where I was going with this, but I think you know what I mean. We need to be putting ourselves together and getting a campaign together. And I think Luke and his young echelon are where the future lies. I'm going to leave it at that. I don't think I've said exactly on everything I wanted to say, but I went off on a tangent, and that's because I didn't want to do my usual talk tonight, which so many of you have seen before, because I'm getting tired of so many of you chanting along with it. It's really irritating. Every joke I crack, I'm having an echo come back. It's not happening anymore. Thanks for having me along. I don't know what I can say any further, but it's up to you now.